This is Jill Armstrong. This is our housing group, interest group for the League of Women Voters. And we are joined today by Jill McGranahan from Foothills Regional Housing and Lori Rosendahl and Amy Case from Metro. I did that backwards. Jill is from Metro West and Lori and Amy are from Foothills Regional Housing. And we've asked them here today to kind of give us an update of what's going on and also hopefully to tell us a little bit about pushback that they've gotten on some of their projects and perhaps how that's actually turned out. Have any people changed their opinions about housing and housing projects once they've been built, or have their fears not materialized? So I think you said, Lori, you're going to start off. So if Lori, she said 1 minute.
Can you all see my slideshow? I want to make sure that you can see the screen share.
I can.
Great.
Everyone else? Okay, perfect.
Okay, Amy, I'm ready. Sorry, someone walked in my office. Okay. Go ahead, Amy. Again, you guys most of you know this already, but this is our mission. And, our big push for anything that we build is always to build it in an area of opportunity. We don't like to build in a food desert. We don't like to build in areas that people have to struggle to get to, transportation to get to work, or to get to the store, or the hospital, or the doctor, or whatever. So everything we build will always be in an area of opportunity, which is, we try to say most services within a 1 mile radius, at least, or at least good transportation within that mile radius. So, on the G line, that kind of thing. So just about us as Jefferson County's housing authority, even though we're Foothills Regional Housing, we're still Jeffco Housing, Jefferson County's housing authority. We have 772 square miles. We really don't develop in Lakewood. We've done some partnerships with Lakewood, but Lakewood has their own housing authority that does development. So they do pretty much their own, but we do develop in every other, we've developed in every other city in Jefferson County. So again, 29, you guys have seen some of these, some of you have seen these, 29.2% are renter households in Jefferson County. And we have a 7.3% poverty rate, which is pretty low, frankly. Okay, Amy, a little bit about, oops.
You did it too fast. How do I go back? Oh, God, sorry.
Hit the back space.
There we go.
Okay. You can see where Jefferson County's at with vacancy rates and affordability. It used to be Jefferson County was the affordable place to live, right? Not so much anymore, right? I'll give you a minute to look at these. You need to earn $36 an hour, $37 an hour to afford an average 1-bedroom apartment in the Denver metro or in the Jefferson County area. Okay. So, oops, back one. Back another. Okay, here's the submarkets, just to give you an idea. I mean, if any of our families want to live in Golden, it's pretty tough. $42 an hour they have to earn to live in Golden. So these are your submarkets, and then you can see the vacancy rate. A 5% market is considered healthy. It tips. So anything really above, between 5 and 7 is pretty healthy. Below 5 is a tough rental market. And you can see we've got a few places that it's tough to find a rental in. And then you can see your average monthly rent. All right, next one. So overburden renters. They say overburden is when a family pays more than 30% of its income for gross, or of its gross income for rent and utilities. There's some kind of thinking moving towards more of a 40% rule, and it depends on who you talk to. So at the Housing Authority for vouchers, we consider 40%, over 40% rent burdened for the voucher program. But you can see that most places do say 30%. A household making less than $6,000 per month in Jeffco would be considered overburdened if they were renting an apartment at the average rent. which is to me insane. Oops, I didn't finish, but okay. I'm going to take away Amy's control of the slideshow in about 2 minutes. She's rushing me. Okay, and then you can just see this is just different jobs, different salaries. It just gives you an idea of what people can afford, and none of these positions can afford the average rent in Jefferson County. So, okay, next one. In Jefferson County, what we do know is there are a total of 53 low-income housing communities. They offer a total of 4,257 affordable units. Now, keep in mind, most of those are LIHTC projects that house people from 30 to 80% AMI. Those are not sliding rents, so they go in to that unit, and that's the unit they stay in. Whether their rent goes up or down, that's the amount of rent they have to pay. But it's usually considered affordable versus the market. So one of the things that surprised me when I got here was that in Jefferson County, for as large as we are, we only have 634 income-based apartments. So those are direct Section 8 subsidized apartments, only 634 in all of Jefferson County. And that would be places like Arvada House, Canyon Gate, Green Ridge, Hidden Lake, I forget the name of the other one over here, but that's what we're talking about, is those kind of deeply subsidized units. Okay, Amy. So you guys are familiar with some of our properties, but we have 22 properties. We have 1,285 affordable units, and we're spread all over. So we have units everywhere. Our biggest program that brings in about $26 million in housing assistance payments into Jefferson County every year is the voucher program. And we have over 1,800 vouchers. We have a lot of special vouchers. So non-elderly disabled vouchers, those are for non-elderly homeless individuals or families. We have BASH vouchers in partnership with the VA. And then we have foster youth vouchers where we can house youth transitioning out of foster care. I think it's up to the age of 24. We can house them for 3 years with the voucher, and then they have to find something else, which that's something that needs to be worked on. Those vouchers should not be term limited, in my opinion. I don't think a foster youth who's coming out of homelessness can get stable on their own and pay the market rent in 3 years. So, okay. So these are just some of the other things we do. We do emergency home repair. That program is starting to build steam lately, I think, because we have a lot of the trailer parks turning over ownership, and the new owners are starting to really put pressure on people to do things with their units, with their trailers. So we have been doing a lot of emergency home repair work. Our goal with that program is to help anybody who anybody that's in the low income bracket with repairs so that they can stay housed. We want them to stay in their home. If their roof is leaking, if their water heater doesn't work, whatever it is that could send them back into the rental market, we prefer they not go back in the rental market. So we want them to stay housed. So that's how we help those folks, is with emergency home repairs. Most of the time grants, sometimes a zero interest loan if it's a really big project. We have service coordination. So we have service coordinators that are out constantly working with our families looking for units. If we have a family who's being evicted, our service coordination team steps in. Our service coordinators also work with Medicare, and they help our seniors. Same with our housing navigators, some of the same thing. They do help with rental applications. And we have grants that we can use to pay for application fees and some down deposit and stuff like that. So you can see the stats at the bottom. I won't go over all of them, but this is semi-new to us. When I started in 2016, we didn't have a service team, and so we've been building that team since then. Okay. So this is some recent development, and I think this might be, I might have missed a few, so just so you know. Some of these aren't open yet. These are just the things we know about that are coming to Jefferson County. We know that, we finished up flats. We probably should take that off because that was last year. Caesar Square, we took 108 market units and turned them into affordable units at 30 to 80 and then did a rehab there. As you guys all know, we built Allison Village. That was 38 units before we turned it into 100 units. Lamar Station, I'm sure Jill will talk more about that. And then this other one is Jill's, and then Legacy Senior Residence. I don't know if that's off the ground yet or not. I just know it was pending. And I think there's a couple that we missed. So I apologize for that, but these are the ones that I just knew about right away. So, okay. And then I think this is preaching to the choir, but I'll let Amy, you want to talk about why it's important since you do all the legislation stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think as we all know, stable housing benefits kids and students in their educational achievement. We know that every time a child changes schools, they have a pretty significant learning loss. We talk about housing from a health perspective. Back at the beginning of the Affordable Care Act, I remember hearing a speech by the current lieutenant governor, and she compared housing without services to sort of, you can't just give someone a healthcare insurance card and imagine that that's going to make them healthy, right? You have to be able to access those services. So housing, the roof, but as well as sometimes the supporting services that come along with that. This is the benefits of affordable housing to a community are really not the story of me or even the story of the impact on one family. It's really a story of we, right, is of the entire community as a whole. So specifically, we also talk about economic impact of affordable housing. Payrolls, increase in disposable income, and I'd say disposable income probably, I would say take that with a grain of salt, because I think we're talking about food and basic educational and healthcare needs in a lot of these instances, rather than truly disposable income when we reduce someone's rent burden. Housing is where jobs go to sleep at night, and affordable housing is where essential jobs go to sleep at night. We've learned during COVID how important those essential workforce players are in our communities, and we need to have those folks be able to live where they work without taking on really, really prohibitive commutes. As employers, we all know that workforce shortages have been a real thing and a real impact on inflation to everyone in our communities. So I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna go into some of the legislative pieces that we have going on currently and how we've been impacted on by recent legislation. So actually, I might propose that we come back to this at the end of our conversation. But as we're talking through, I want to point out a few words: public-private partnerships. You're going to hear about that when we talk about the low-income housing tax credit program and preservation of existing affordable housing. Proposition 123. Can impact that. We're going to talk about some failed state legislation this year in the General Assembly that would have impacted zoning and development rules, but we still have some impacts coming from Proposition 123. And we'll talk about these when I talk about CDBG, private activities bonds, home funds, choice neighborhood activities. these are existing resources, but I'm going to talk about the scarcity of them. So with that, Proposition 123 was a ballot initiative that, as you all know, carried in November of 2022, and it's being implemented now. So this was not a new funding mechanism for revenues to the state. It was essentially a set aside of existing revenues to the state. So 1/10 of 1%, so 0.01% of state income tax is now set aside by the Colorado Constitution for investment in affordable housing. Initial estimates peg that number at approximately $300 million a year, set aside really in two buckets, 60% for the Affordable Housing Finance Fund and its programs through OEDIT. OEDIT has contracted, by the way, with CHAFA, the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, to administer those funds for them. So main areas that 60% will be going into are land banking, equity investments, and concessionary debt programs for affordable housing. Land banking is really kind of a grant. So local governmental jurisdictions can apply for that money to purchase vacant land that they, or essentially vacant land that they intend to convert into deed restricted affordable housing within 5 years. The equity programs, I would say, are not as well formed yet as the land banking program. Actually, I believe it was July 17th, July 18th, the Colorado Division of Housing started taking applications for the land banking program, not applications, letters of interest, and then they're going to kind of screen them and invite full proposals. 40% of the, and I'm sorry, that's CHAFA that's accepting the LOIs for land banking, as they're the administrators for OEDIT. And then the 40% that is set aside in the Affordable Housing Support Fund, a good chunk of that is affordable home ownership. So think community land trusts like Elevation Land Trust, Habitat for Humanity, and then some deep homelessness services, as well as technical assistance for communities. So those are the programs that are now available, even though there's still some formation going on and no results yet, right? We haven't got a dollar out on the street yet, but we're getting very close. And this is a long-term sustainable source for affordable housing. The required, so even if we have projects in communities that would be good fits for these programs, the local government really is the gatekeeper for affordable housing developers. We can't access any of these programs unless the local jurisdiction opts in to them. Two things that they have to do to opt in. One, now to opt in, they have to commit every 3 years to increase their deed restricted affordable housing units by 3% per year. That means they could do 9%, a 9% increase in 1 year, or they could do 3% a year, or 1, 2, and 3, or 6. Sorry. So, but anyway, 9% over 3 years, but they're not really saying it like that. And then if they want to remain in the program, meaning developers in their community are able to apply starting in 2026, they also have to commit to a fast track approval process for affordable housing, meaning permitting land use entitlements. what that means, a fast track approval process is not really defined by the statute. I don't know if the General Assembly will take that up, or if the program administrators and CML want the flexibility of that sort of being undefined. I guess we'll wait and see on that. So this year in the General Assembly, here's kind of a partial list of bills that carried and have been signed by the governor that impact affordable housing, pet-friendly affordable housing requirements, multifamily operators, and this is not just affordable, any cannot place breed restrictions or a pet fees at all on tenants. They can charge a pet deposit, and they can charge a very small amount of pet rent monthly. I believe the pet deposit limit is $300 and the pet rent is $30 a month maximum. We're all pet lovers. I'm a pet owner, but I will tell you, our experience as professional landlords, and even my own experience as a homeowner, is that sometimes pets charge or commit quite a bit more damage than a $300 deposit would require. I happen to have one who's eaten a couch, but so, you know, that's great. And pets do a lot of things to benefit the health of residents, but we recognize that that's an additional expense that we will be incurring. 30-day waiting periods and mediation requirements for evictions on HUD-assisted units. That includes not just properties that are fully subsidized by HUD contracts and programs, but also one of our voucher holders who's out in the community and using their voucher to rent from a private landlord, where everyone is fairly concerned with the mediation requirement, not because anyone's particularly opposed to mediation, but the mediations have to be scheduled through a state portal, which right now only has 2 providers on it, approved providers for the entire state. You know, if you have someone in a community, a tenant who is really behaving atrociously hostile or harassing to other residents, or doing something that we think even causes a dangerous situation on the property or is doing damage to the property, there's no remedy right now. We still have to go through all this process to remove them and protect the property and the other residents of the property. So we have concerns, but that has been signed by the governor.
And I'm going to add to that. Amy, I'm sorry. The other concern that I have had with that is just our voucher holders have such a hard time finding a place to rent. And when landlords have to do extra because they take a voucher, they just won't take them. And I know that income discrimination is illegal, but they will find another way to not have to deal with this mediation and all this other stuff. They'll just find another way to get around not renting to our families. Our families have so many barriers as it is. I appreciate where this bill came from, and I understand what they were trying to do, but I'm not sure that they understand the unintended consequences for all of our families that are on TANF, any low-income family. Landlords are just going to say, yeah, I've got another qualified tenant, I'm going to take them.
Right.
I think we just didn't think this one through. So I've just been doing this for 20 some years, and I know what landlords will do to, you know, if there's just too much for them. Our program's already hard. They already have to fill out a ton of paperwork, go through inspections, and now we add this. I'm very concerned about this one going forward. I just had to share that out loud.
A very good point. And you know, I probably shouldn't have just said HUD assisted units here, because as you said, TANF, that you reminded me that this applies whether they're have a voucher are in a HUD unit or even have absolutely no contact with HUD, but happen to be a community member who receives SSDI or SSI as their only income source, this applies to them as well. Prohibited provisions in rental agreements, for example, fee shifting. So that basically says things like a landlord can't put in their lease language that says, if I have to take you to court for some proposed violation of your lease, you have to pay my attorney's fees. That now can only say whoever's the prevailing party has to pay attorney's fees. Prohibited growth, that's one example of the provisions.
Amy, I'm gonna have to cut you off. We have gone through some legislative updates.
Okay.
And so what I'm wondering is, could we go ahead, if there's anything very specific you want to add? Yeah, I'd love to hear about future legislation.
Okay.
And we need to switch over. And then I guess I should ask the group, I can see where we're not going to be able to get through this in an hour. Is anybody, and that includes our presenters, able to add an extra 15 minutes on?
I am not. I have a meeting at 12:30.
Okay, well then let's switch over to Jill. Well, go ahead and very quickly go
Future
through
legislation real fast.
This is my last slide, or maybe one more.
Okay, well, let's very quickly go through
Okay.
future legislation because I want to give Jill
Okay.
time as well.
Sure, and really this is all federal. Well, excuse me, except for the land use reform. I want to point out, and it sounds like you all know, that this governor's land use bill was not successful. I just want to point out that we think parts of that could be coming around in future general assemblies. There's really a nationwide trend around single family zoning, parking reduction, and higher density around fixed public transit. Oregon and California in the last 12 months have done a lot of both successful and unsuccessful work in that area, attempting to ban single family zoning. And they used really a carrot approach versus the stick approach. So if anyone is interested in that, those are two good states to look at. Federal LIHTC program expansion and private activity bond test relief is already been introduced. It's been out for about 11 weeks at the federal level. The only reason I put this chart in, so this is in the first 10 weeks, the number of sponsors that are on that bill that will increase that program and make it more feasible to generate new low-income units. I wanted to point out the top blue line versus the bottom blue line. This is just in the House. The Senate chart looks the same. In the first 10 weeks since that bill has been released, the number of co-sponsors on that bill is double what it was in the last Congress. My point is there's many more waiting to sign on the D side, but you have to sign on a Republican and a D. That's just the political strategy right now. So my point is there's a huge amount of bipartisan support at the federal level. It's really about finding a vehicle, whether it's a tax extenders bill or a budget bill or a standalone bill. Speaking of spending bills, the appropriation bill drafts have been released. Of course, the president's budget bill has been released. The House bill has been released, and just late last week, the Senate bill has been released. I want to point out in the House, one of the community development programs that we use all the time here in Jefferson County to fill gaps is the home program. And the House has proposed zeroing that out, as well as the Choice Neighborhoods program, which has created a lot of affordable housing for the Denver Housing Authority. We don't know where our national appropriations will land because of proposed spending cuts, which means we get paid less to administer the program, and we can't increase our payment allowances at the same rate of inflation. And public housing, which we don't have any in Jefferson County, but public housing is under constant threat. The Denver metro area does have public housing, and those budgets are continue to get chopped every year. So that's where you can help in advocacy. And there, I talked really fast. So now Jill.
Thank you so much.
All right, let me pull up my screen here.
And I know Jill, while she's pulling up her slides, I know Jill had said she would furnish us with her slides. Amy and Lori, can you do the same?
Sure.
Okay, so I will send the slides out.
All right, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
So some of this I'm gonna be able to skip because it's repetitive of what Amy talked about, but talking about affordable housing, what does that mean? It's 30% of your gross income. The issue that we run into Lakewood, and probably similar for all of Jefferson County, is that the median home price in Lakewood is 77% higher than the national average. The average rent in Lakewood is 4% higher than the average national rent. And the median home value in Lakewood is $630,000, which is pretty expensive if you're trying to buy your first home. So there's a real demand here. So this is just what we do besides development. We develop the properties, we manage them. We have resident services, much like Lori's team. And then we administer the housing choice vouchers, the Section 8 for the city of Lakewood. So these are just some of our residents. I think that that's a common misperception of who lives in affordable housing. It's seniors, it's recent graduates that are getting their first job and not making a lot of money yet, working parents who can't afford both daycare and rent. So, and then the workforce, those people that work in industries that are vital to the success of a community, but that don't pay a lot. The servers, the grease monkey people, the grocery store workers. So these are just some of the people that live in affordable housing. This is similar. I'm going to skip over this slide because we know what the jobs are paying and what the rents are in Lakewood and Jefferson County. So this is how many people we have currently on our family property wait list. Our housing choice voucher program, the last time we ran it was in 2021 and we had 2,984 applicants. We just closed the one for 2023, which was June 26th through July 11th. We had it open and we had 4,044 people apply. And I know Foothills opened theirs today through Friday, correct? No? Sorry, I have that date wrong. I apologize.
Yeah, no, we're not open yet. It was Boulder or someone else has theirs open.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we asked about common misperceptions about affordable housing. So we hear this a lot. I'm concerned about the presence of affordable housing and what it will have a negative, if it will have a negative impact on the home value. There's been a ton of research nationally on all of these things, and it shows conclusively that affordable housing has no negative impact on home prices. Trulio examined the nation's 20 least affordable markets, and as a whole, there was no significant effect on home values. And those located near low-income units. A poorly built, cheap building will be an eyesore in the neighborhood. Affordable housing, it has to comply with the same design and construction standards as the market rate projects. We pride ourselves on building properties that complement the communities in which they're located. And as Amy was saying, Prop 123, one of the things that they're looking to do with that is to fast track the process to get affordable housing through. Because right now, like we have properties that we want to develop that it takes more than a year to get through the planning and development department at Lakewood. And that's just too long because sometimes the money is tied to having certain percent of the project done by a certain time. And if you're waiting a year for the city to approve your plans, it can really mess that up. So that's, I think, the reason behind that section of the Proposition 123. People who live in affordable housing don't contribute to their community coffers. You know, this one is partly true because if you're paying more than 30% of your gross income just to live in a house, you don't have as much to spend on daycare or healthcare, nutritious food, education, transportation, saving for the future, and investing in the local community gets hard to pay for. But when you do have affordable housing, those people, you know, they contribute to the community coffers, they contribute thousands of dollars to their community because they're not spending everything that they have just to have a place to live. They're able to invest in their community as well. Affordable housing will bring more crime and homelessness to my neighborhood. In fact, affordable housing does just the opposite of that. By providing a safe, clean, and affordable place to live, many of those who are homeless can get off the streets and start getting back on their feet. And there's no evidence that affordable housing brings crime to a neighborhood. In fact, affordable housing as a tool of economic development often helps to lower crime rates. Affordable housing is going to bring with it a lot of issues around parking and traffic. Metro West and every other community, they have to follow the parking requirements of their community. So whenever we build a property, we have to build a certain number of parking spaces to go with that. And then we have properties like our new Williams Point that we're building, that we built additional parking spaces because there is no on-street parking nearby. So we wanted to make sure that there was enough parking at the building. We don't charge parking to our residents. If they live in one of our units, they can park there. Market rate apartments, they generally do charge for parking, and that actually causes more issues because the people that live there want to go park on free street parking around the neighborhood. And to date, we have not received any complaints about traffic issues at any of our properties. So we don't feel like it increases traffic so significantly that it becomes an issue. So these are just some of the communities that we're in Lakewood. And we try to be a good neighbor in all of our communities. So what does that mean? It means that we do outreach before we build a building. We have community meetings. We let them have design input if there's a real concern about the building not fitting in, but we try very hard to construct our buildings to fit in the communities where they're located. We have an on-site manager and on-site resident services at all of our buildings. So there's always people there to talk to if there's an issue. And then we do things like National Night Out and block parties to try to get to know the neighbors. In these pictures, you can see in the upper left, we adopted Pierce Street. So Metro West goes out twice a year and cleans up Pierce Street. The picture to the far right, we just did a mural in conjunction with Jefferson County Public Schools and AARP. We painted that mural on one of the benches outside of 5800, trying to do some neighborhood beautification. So we really try to be active members in our community. And one of the questions I asked was, have you been able to change perceptions of affordable housing once you have people, or once you build one? So I wanted to share this from one of our Indy Street Flats is one of the properties that we built.
No sound.
No sound. So, you know, usually they're not really excited about us coming in, but we work really hard to win them over through good design, being a good neighbor. Oh, sorry. Let me see if I can get that. So then I was asked, what are some of the things that we've done in the last 5 years? So real quick, this is Lamar Station. The first building opened in 2016, I believe, but phase 2, which was another 65 units, that was completed in 2021. That's just the inside. So just kind of showing off some of the nice buildings that we try to provide and nice homes that we provide for our residents. 5800, that's 152 units on Alameda. That's the common area for 5800. Indy Street Flats, that's the lady that was just talking. They were not really thrilled about us coming in there with 115 units, but they seem really happy with us now. Sage Corner, that is the one on the corner of Jewel and Kipling. If you go by and see that building, it's very similar to the building that we're looking to build in our new property, Williams Point, which will be, again, construction next year. Belmar Groves, this one is right across from Belmar Shopping Center. I put this in here because you can see that it has, this is a pretty dated building from the 70s. It has that huge roof on it, very dark. And we are doing a remodel of that right now. And this is what the new building is going to look like. So we're going to take that big roof off. We're going to open it up. We're going to remodel all of the units, bring them up to speed with high efficiency appliances and such. And then this is our new property that we just received low income housing tax credits, LIHTC credits for. So this is 44 units that it's going to be over at Colfax and Youngfield. And this is one that's going to be just like the Sage Corner building. So 3-story. And that's it.
So Jill,
Yeah,
Just a few comments on the points that you brought up. The traffic and the parking concerns, as you said, we have to follow all applicable zoning and building department regulations. We have to produce traffic studies for CHAFA. And any kind of administrative reduction for parking that we are able to even get approved locally, our investors review, and sometimes they even want it parked even more than
required by the city.
Local, right? But always we invite anyone to drive by our properties and see how many empty spaces. We think, frankly, because of parking requirements and building to those, many of our properties are actually overparked. Which is an unfortunate use of expensive and rare resources, including
Parking is
land.
expensive to build, and
Yep.
but you know, we have to follow it, and we do. But yeah, we have the same issue that many of our buildings. You go look at them, and there's tons of empty spots.
Yep. There is a study that I'm also able to send out when we send out our slides. It was completed in 2022, I believe, by the Livable City Labs. It references previous studies in Virginia, the Chicago and Cook County, Illinois area, as well as San Diego. And they did this study in Orange County. And it actually provides the data after studying 371 individual units and their surrounding neighborhoods in Orange County. And they actually observed sales price or property values increasing near affordable housing. And in fact, the closer it was built to affordable housing, the higher the increase was. And that is supported by the other studies in the other areas that I mentioned. They did the same analysis of crime statistics within those same diameters around the new affordable housing development. Some minor evidences of actually decline in certain types of crimes, but overall, this study, as well as the previous study, the crime impact was nearly null. But certainly no increase and perhaps a slight decrease. So also just pointing out that we do have some really great studies that we can share that back that up.
Mindy, you had a question?
Yes, and this is really for Jill. You mentioned a new complex that would be going in Williams Point at Colfax and Youngfield.
Correct.
So my understanding is that's not near like a light rail station. I mean, it is near Colfax, obviously, but it is more of the typical Jefferson County single-family home types of areas out west, as opposed to maybe some of the ones by Sheridan or Lamar. How are the neighbors receiving that? Have you done community meetings, and what's going on there, Jill?
They're not receiving it well right now, I will say. We've reached out to them. We reached out to the neighborhood association when we had applied for the tax credits for that building and said, hey, we've applied for this. We're not sure we're going to get it, but if we do, we'd like to set up a community meeting. And so once we did get the approval, first thing we did was reach out to them and say, let's set up a community meeting. And then I sent letters to the 4 houses that were adjacent to our property because they would be the ones most impacted. And that started quite the firestorm because they were like, oh, you're only reaching out to 4 people. And I'm like, no, that's just, that was wanting to do a little bit extra for the ones closest, but we're reaching out to the whole neighborhood. And we're actually having a meeting with them on August 1st to address some of their concerns. It's not near a light rail station, but it is on a major transportation corridor, Colfax. And it's close to urgent care, it's close to shopping there, amenities. So we try to build in places that they have easy access to those things. And so we bought the property back in 2004, and we just received the tax credits to build it out this year.
Thank you.
I think another statistic that's really interesting is that Lori alluded to the number of affordable units that are built throughout Jefferson County. We looked at our numbers of affordable housing units that we offer and how long we've been in existence. And basically, if you divided the number of units by the number of years, we average about 67 units a year that we build and can make available. But as we know, we have over 6,000 people on our wait list, and we average 67 a year. So you can see where the issue comes in.
Kathy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if, in addition to all this, which is great information, if it would be possible to compile your just kind of a summary of the length of your waiting lists and the length of time that the sort of average length of time that folks stay housed within your housing. There's a lot of talk about the transient population and that kind of thing. Transient seems to be the new word out there. And my impression is that once folks are in your housing, they stay there. So it would be nice to have some actual data to share.
So, sorry, Kathy. I guess I'm curious about what Lori thinks about this too, and Jill, when I think when we share wait list numbers, or I hesitate a little bit because I don't think they're representative because they're so frequently closed.
And we're a lottery.
Yeah, and we have a lottery. I could say we have, I don't know offhand what the number is, 2,300 names on our list right now. I don't know that that tells you anything, because if we were open all the time, we would have 12,000 names, right? So I don't know how informative it is. I don't know what Jill and Lori, what you think about that, but I always feel like that number is misrepresentative.
I think your number is your cost burden. How many cost burden?
That's my other concern, is that we are allotted 1,400 housing choice vouchers in Lakewood, but we only have funding for about 1,200. So we have 200 that we're not able to use because we just don't have the money to pay that. So it's hard to say, because we have more vouchers and we have budget and we have more demand than we have available.
But if you look at your cost burden rental households, that'll tell you what the need is, because I think I had it up there. I don't remember the stat now, but that's your cost burden renter households in Denver or in Jefferson County. That doesn't mean they'll all qualify for our assistance, but they're the ones that are struggling. And
in Lakewood, it's 43.6% of the population.
Yeah, it's a lot. You'd be surprised. I mean, I don't think they don't all qualify for rental assistance, but what it shows you is that they're just paying way more out of their pocket than they should. I mean, I think that's the important number, because it's not just rental assistance, it's also affordable home ownership. And we're forgetting that piece. It's one of the things that we forget a lot about. We keep saying we need to build for the missing middle income housing. We need a middle income housing authority. We need to take care of the missing middle. The middle income folks want to buy. They did their time. They've rented. Now they're over 80% AMI. They don't want to go to another rental, most of them. They want to purchase something and they can't, because it's completely out of reach here, especially when you have condo defect legislation that keeps developers from building affordable condos that people can get their start in. That's how you build your personal wealth. And so we're missing that home ownership piece for them. And it's very frustrating to me when I hear people talk about missing middle and we should build them a bunch of apartments. Okay. I mean,
thank you. That's very helpful. It'd be great to try to just be able to address some of the extreme demand and put it in perspective. So that's really helpful. With the condo defects, that came up in the state legislature and was discussed as trying to be added on as amendments and things to the land use bill, and it was pushed away. Any idea if there could be some traction to turn that around?
I keep being told it's not going to happen. Amy would know more than I would, but based on the current makeup of our House and our Senate, I am told that it's just not. We aren't going to get there. But Amy would know more. She's our legislative outreach person for Housing Colorado.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you that that one is not my specialty. I'm not super knowledgeable on that, but I'll tell you there's a lot of public perception, and I think a lot of even legislative perception that's been dealt with, and we're all fine now. But there was some arbitration legislation and things like that a handful of years ago, but I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing a lot of builders bringing a affordable condo product to market for first time buyers. So I think we have to disagree with them on that.
Thank you, Amy. Christina, you had your hand up.
I did, because I agree 100% with Lori, but the previous conversation, y'all told me a lot when you said, oh, well, we closed the list. And that's the point you have to reemphasize is we closed the list and we think there's this many more out here. And by emphasizing that, you're telling everyone how skewed the numbers are, for lack of a better way to put it. Because they are, and I understand that. But, some people, oh, we're putting out all this effort for only 2,700 people. No, there's a lot more out there. That's just the ones we can measure at the moment, because that's what the list capped at.
And I'm going to piggyback on something Christina said and add to it, because you've given us a lot of really good information, especially about misperceptions and so on. And what I'm wondering is I don't know if you have enough community outreach to get this out, but what can the league be doing? How can we convey or make people more aware or fight back against these myths? Because I know you're busy just simply building. What can we do to advocate? Because I think that's so needed right now. It's one thing to get the financing for these projects, but then when you get into huge community pushback, even with Prop 123 money, how can we help? So in those few minutes that are left with Jill and Lori and Amy, how can we be helping you?
I have a couple of things. One, you can show up at zoning and neighborhood meetings and planning commission hearings, and you can offer your support to these programs, because there are voices there saying exactly what they're going to say. Crime, parking, traffic, you're going to overcrowd our schools. By the way, school enrollment's down and we're closing schools, but you can help us counter those voices in those meetings. And the other thing you can do is that when legislation is moving through the Colorado General Assembly that either helps or harms our efforts, you can offer public testimony via Zoom or in person at those committee hearings. So that's my 2 cents.
I think those are both great. I think it's just raising awareness of the need and helping combat the misperceptions of the people who are the NIMBYs.
Speaking of community meetings, Jill, there's a question for you about the Williams Point meeting that Lou put in the chat.
Oh, I missed that. What is the question?
Is it with the Applewood Homeowners Association?
This is not. So the Applewood Neighborhood Association is the big meeting, but the one that we're having on August 1st, it's Marianne Ortiz, who's the president of Applewood, and Dave Ruckman, who's kind of just a player there. And then the immediate neighbors right there by the property who are so distressed about the building coming in there. So we're doing this in addition to our full neighborhood outreach, just to kind of hopefully assuage some of their concerns.
Thank you. I was looking for an announcement of the meeting, so that explains it.
So yeah, the Applewood one, that they said that you guys usually only have one meeting a year. It's in the late fall.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to wait that long to do our first outreach. So that's why we're doing this additional one in August.
Thanks.
Jill, would it help you if we co-sponsored some of your meetings? I'm just thinking out of the top of my head.
It might, we have, for example, the Lakewood Police Department, they love us because we are really good partners. We work with them. We mitigate any issues in our buildings, and we have really low crime rates in our buildings. So they've offered to come to meetings with us as well. for this one on August 1st, they were like, do you want us to come? And we don't want it to feel like we're, stacking the deck or coming on too aggressive. So we said no for this one. But, when we have the full Applewood Valley neighborhood meeting, I think it'd be lovely to have people there that say, this is a real need and these people want to do it right and they want to be good neighbors. They don't want to just come in and steamroll you, but they want to be good neighbors. And I think that that's something that people often forget. Private development, they don't have to do any community outreach. So if they bought a piece of property, they would just come in there and build what they wanted and not even talk to the community about it because they're private developers. But we come in and we're like, okay, we're going to build this. We own the land. We could just build it, but we want to be good neighbors. We want to introduce ourselves. We want to address those misperceptions about what affordable housing is. And, we want them to be excited about their new neighbors because their neighbors are going to be really excited to have a home that they can afford.
Kathy, can you want to grab the last couple of minutes?
I just wanted to ask the best way to find out about when and where these meetings are, aside from reading next door or something.
That's a good question. We work mostly with the neighborhood organizations, so we reach out directly to those. And then once we have a date set, we would promote it on our social media outlets as well. But to find out about regular ones, it's mostly we go and speak to community groups like this. I'm presenting to the Belmar Library Association next week. Just trying to, educate them one at a time and in one-on-one meetings.
I would say regarding the activity during the General Assembly session and those committee hearings where we could use public testimony, housingcolorado.org is the Housing Colorado website. They have
Amy, I'll stop you there. The league has a statewide legislative action committee that has a housing task force. So we're actually already involved in the statewide legislation. So it would help to know more about the local stuff in Jeffco.
Okay. I will tell you just one thing though. One thing that report shows on our website is the position that the over 200 members of Housing Colorado have elected to take on that legislation: support, oppose, or monitor.
I have to run to my next meeting. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to speak with you and answer any questions. I will send you that PowerPoint as a PDF as soon as I'm done with this next call.
The only thing I would ask for is, could you also send the link to the video of the woman talking about the change in her perceptions, because that won't show up in the PDF.
I will do that, and it's on our YouTube channel, so you should be able to access it, no problem.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jill. Really appreciate all your information.
Bye-bye.
Any other quick, Kathy, is your hand still up? No, okay. Well, I really appreciate both Lori and Amy, and of course, Jill. Thank you for all your good information as well. And thank you for all the work you do. You both are amazing. We're actually looking at trying to change a position that the league has on housing and homelessness. And so our August meeting is going to be around what we call concurrence, which is taking another league's position and seeing if we can, I guess, make that our league's position as well. The reason I sound confused is our August meeting is going to be about the concurrence process and how to do it. And I haven't been trained in that yet, so I don't know exactly what we're talking about, but that will be our August meeting. It will be, as usual, the fourth Monday, the fourth Monday of the month. And so I will be sending out information about that. Lori and Amy, if you would remember to send us your PowerPoint or a PDF of your PowerPoint, I will distribute it to those people. And I'm going to stop the recording right now. And